Hello, welcome. We got another show for you folks here. Welcome to the first episode of what we're doing with the Mack Flash crew. We had just finished our Mack Flash 5 and we were getting to talk, and that's what we like to do. So we started, this is episode 1 of Leisure Fan Gab, Mack Flash LFG. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk. And I am Scott. I'm joined as always, AB, Matt Robbins. We are the Mack Flash 5. We're not doing the Mack Flash 5 anymore. It's in 2022. We decided we wanted to do something else. Wanted to focus our time on the trivia. But as we are friends and we talk commonly, we were putting our thoughts on the lot of topics. We're like, what would be great? We should just come in, do a little review show. That way we can get them all out there. What you guys wanted to talk about first? And we threw some ideas, and we figured that the best way to start would be episode 1 and 2 of Disney Plus's new show, The Book of Boba Fett, which is the continuing adventures of Boba Fett, continuing from the 1983 film Return of the Jedi, and more recently his appearance on season 2 of The Mandalorian in 2020. So we've all watched. The first episode debuted on my birthday, December 29th. The second episode was on Wednesday of last week, and there are 5 more left. So we figured we'll do little recaps, our thoughts, good things, bad things, where we think, predictions, mainly stuff like that. We can get it on film so we can view back later and who was right and who was wrong. We'll probably do it again after episode 2, maybe after episode 4, and then again after the season finale as well. But gentlemen, first thoughts. What do you guys think? Book of Boba Fett, 2 episodes down. What do you got?
Before we get started, just a spoiler warning. We are going to be talking in detail about the show. So if you have not seen episode 1, please shut this off. Go watch those 2 episodes. Come back here and see our thoughts about it. Because we don't want anybody accusing us of ruining things by talking about all the awesomeness that's included in the show. And going forward, we'll give a little spoiler warning, before every episode, but be warned, we're going to talk in depth about all these things.
Mainly what we want to do with this show is like how we talk in chats and we talk when we go to Manchester Trivia, and moving forward on any topic we do, whether we talk about movies or shows or things like that. I think generally this will always be a spoiler convo because nothing's worse. We listen to podcasts. We're all podcast fans. Nothing's worse than when they're like the first 40 minutes is spoiler free and you're like, I understand that's for the masses, but I mean, this is such a niche thing. We're just going to talk about it because we want to talk about it as friends to our friends. And so it will always be spoiler filled.
And there's usually a lot of YouTube people. They'll have 2 shows, one spoiler free review and one full of spoilers and Easter eggs and what you missed. And that's the stuff you want to see anyways.
Yeah.
Why would I don't even like watching a spoiler free review. I mean, why didn't you see the movie as soon as it came out?
I know. I never understood.
Why are you watching reviews? Why do you care what people think before you see it anyways?
You guys know I send you the Joe Blow reviews on stuff, and they've reviewed Book of Boba Fett and things. I scroll right through past all the verbiage, all the text, all the stuff, get to the letter grade or number grade that they do, screenshot that and send it to you guys. But I don't read any of the stuff in between. Just a few tidbits on the vibe of the film, but otherwise,
A lot of those people who do the spoiler-free reviews are like critics, professional critics, and are in the industry, and they get to see the movies well before everyone else.
Sure, that's true.
So it's really just for people to say, I saw it before you, you'll like it too.
We all saw these episodes the same day. So first thoughts, AB, what do you got? Thumbs up, thumbs down on the first 2?
On the first 2, I enjoyed both of them. One significantly more than the other one, and we'll probably get into that. But I mean, the first 2 episodes were a lot of fun. And I'm interested to see where the show goes, but I mean, we've talked about this off air constantly. I'm a true blue Star Wars fan. You can throw pretty much damn near any Star Wars show at me and I'm going to watch it and most likely enjoy it at some level. So, it's one of those things where, new Star Wars show, I'm in, and like, you're going to give me a show about Boba Fett and like his adventures after Return of the Jedi. Let's go. So for sure.
Matt, first thoughts?
first thoughts on the first episode were like, yeah, okay, let's get to the second one.
And that's generally the vibe from the internet. I'm going to come
Yeah.
on. I'm Mr. Twitter. And these guys know, and I bore them to death on some of the vibes. So, and this is what this show is going to be. It's just an encompassing conversation, more or less a peek into what we're like at the table at Manchester before trivias and stuff. And I'm always talking about the vibe of Twitter. And that was the first episode was very divisive. People didn't like it. They were out. They were already ready to write off the show after one. I didn't think one was anything special, but it wasn't anything different. If you had told me the day before episode 1 aired, I was going to be like, well, yeah, you're going to see him get out of the Sarlacc. There'll probably be a storyline that continues off of there. And then there's going to be another storyline that'll continue after The Mandalorian. And that's exactly what the show's doing. So, Matt, tell us what we're seeing here.
We're seeing one of the first images from from chapter 1 of the Book of Boba Fett. Told through a flashback, Boba Fett is in his new palace that he's acquired at the end of The Mandalorian, Jabba's palace. He has killed Bib Fortuna and he's claimed the throne and taken over the surrounding area of Mos Eisley on Tatooine. He's healing himself in the bacta tank, and while he does that, we flash back through some memories. The first one being escaping the Sarlacc Pit, and after that, he crawls his way out, and some Jawas come in and beat him up for his armor.
Yeah,
as we know, Cobb Vanth, Timothy Olyphant's character, Mandalorian, and the novels, he has the armor, and he says to Din Djarin, he bought it off some Jawas. So that scene you're getting is continuing and doing that storyline to fill in those gaps.
It's so funny. Me and my girlfriend Kim just went through The Mandalorian over the holidays and right into the first episode of Boba Fett. And so while we're watching the Mandalorian and that episode comes up, she's like, "Well, wait, how did he get the armor, and how does it get back to Boba Fett?" And I'm like, "Oh, you're gonna have to wait till we get to because it makes that connecting tissue."
That's right? What. Yeah, I remember.
And I was laughing inside, right? Because I'm like, I already saw both the Boba Fett, all the Mandalorian and the Boba Fett episode at that point. So I was like, wow, there we go. You're gonna be able to see the direct connection between the two, which is fun.
Of course, and the two storylines that we're talking about. I don't want to summarize too much because we're hoping that people watching this have already seen it. But the one storyline is continuing with Boba Fett, and he's being captured by the Sand People, the Tusken Raiders, and held as a prisoner. And that storyline, as you're seeing right there, he's tied up. It's him and a Rodarian, the same species as Greedo in A New Hope. And they're forced to dig through the sands of Tatooine to find little moisture balls with water in it, and that's a big part of episode chapter 1, episode 1. And while that's going on, again, as you talked, it's Fennec and Boba Fett are now on the throne, accepting gifts from people as well too. So, what do you guys think of that? The people coming in, the vibe of his immediate beef with the mayor.
Before we get to that, I wanted to just chime in on the him getting out of the Sarlacc Pit, because that was kind of an underwhelming thing for me. I love to see it, and that was the thing that we all knew we were going to see, right? We like going back even as a kid. They had that in the comics, him getting out of the Sarlacc Pit in the comics, and then later on in the novelizations, they had the Tales from Jabba's Palace. They go into how he escapes the Sarlacc Pit. So everybody that's watching this show is like keyed up, like, hey, let's see how he gets out of the Sarlacc Pit. And it was like a 10-second scene. Yeah. And so I was kind of like, oh, that's it? Like, it was cool. It was cool looking, but like, I wanted to like,
I am surprised we saw the insides of the Sarlacc. I thought it was just going to be a pan shot, which was cool seeing the sail barge. I'm like, oh, I'm surprised when they woke up and he was just like this, and he went over to the stormtrooper to get the oxygen. But I didn't even think
which people are beefing on that as well. Which I'm like, the Sarlacc Pit's been there for a while. The Empire has been there for a while. They've been there. Jabba probably threw a couple stormtroopers in there at some point. And so they're like, there are no stormtroopers in Return of the Jedi and Tatooine. And like, the stormtroopers have been a presence on Tatooine.
And we know they were in A New Hope. They were combing the whole. They were combing the whole sands.
Exactly.
Like, they're on dewbacks.
And something that a lot of people don't know is Sarlaccs move. They don't stay necessarily in one spot. They do have the ability to move through the Dune Sea.
Yeah, but I thought, and then that's the cool thing, the Easter egg. I really enjoyed seeing the sail barge. So when he comes out, you see the hand. That's ultimately where I thought the opening shot was going to be, and then again, as we already led to and continue, and the one main thing that differentiates between the two storylines are the fact that Temuera Morrison in the modern day one, he takes his helmet off quite a bit, Boba Fett now is more. He's in the back of the tank, so he's healed. He's got some color to him, and then in the Tusken Raiders storyline, he's white, he's chapped, and that's how you can kind of differentiate between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, getting into the whole thing of him bringing in people to hear. I think that it was pretty fun, right? It was kind of like, okay, he's doing his like crime boss duties, and like, you know, accepting the people are accepting him as the crime boss. And you get a fun little the torture droid there who's voiced by Matt Berry, who I love. As soon as it came on, I was like, oh, Matt Berry, and recognize that voice anywhere. But that was a fun little twist to have his voice in there. And then, you know, he shows up again. But yeah, I just like that. Like he's already like full on the role. Yeah, there we go. He's just kind of full taking on that role already, and like, you know, living it up, bringing people in and having them pay tribute. And then, you know, you have the twist of the mayor's thing, and you know, okay, the mayor's going to be an issue. He's going to be, you know, an adversary at one point, which, you know, in that episode, and then episode 2, we find out he is. So we'll see where it goes with that.
Along with that, we meet two Gamorrean guards who were loyal to Jabba, and then later Bib Fortuna, and he makes what Fennec might call a mistake in sparing their lives. But it seems like, well, you were loyal to him, will you be loyal to me?
Yeah, I don't know why she was so against. That seems like the right thing. You're the crime lord. Like they want a play. If like the alternative is being, you know, fed to a Rancor, which I mean he doesn't have, but that comes back in 2, or serving at the crime lord. Yeah, anything. I'm like, this makes total sense. You need the muscle, of course you do. This is great. Yeah.
Well, and these, like you said, like Matt said, they were loyal to both those guys, and what else are they going to do? And so that's the scene where, you know, basically they're dead to rights to the guys with the shields. And you know, the Gamorrean guards come in and kick some ass. I was like, yeah, like most of the time you're seeing Gamorrean guards in Return of the Jedi just standing there like slugs, or like running from
almost
a Rancor.
Useless.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the reason why these guys are guards.
The cage fight in Mando, which was like cool, but you're absolutely right. You get to see them. There's a reason why these guys are hired muscle, right? Like they kick ass. So like to see them come in like with basically like hopped up butcher knives, or like things coming in, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty fun to see them. So let's breeze through the end of the first episode here. What happens is when Boba Fett is out, he basically, if you've seen the episode, and we hope you have, Boba Fett, you know, saves the life of one of the Tusken Raider children, and from a giant creature. You know, who's the guy I'm thinking of from Mortal Kombat?
Oh, Goro.
Is that it?
Between the Goro-looking creature and the
Blanca. Am I not thinking of Blanca?
Goro.
No. Blanca is from Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Between
Goro,
the Goro Sand Monster and the Parkour Ninjas, there's a lot of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, there is.
References.
So I just want to summarize. So it ends with him saving the Tusken Raiders child, taking the head back to the Tusken Raiders, and then earning their respect. So ultimately, you know, in that storyline, he's going to be an adversary of the Tusken Raiders, which is elaborated further in episode 2, which we'll get into. And then in the other, I mean, I guess the more present storyline being a post-Mando is the assassins in the parkours, and they go for a hit for him, and he gets back to the tank, and he's got to figure out who put a hit on him as the crime boss. So just again, thoughts on that. And as the episode ended, I thought the The four-arm creature was a little hokey.
Yeah,
I mean, that
100%.
was kind of lame. I thought the Tusken Raider stuff. We'll circle back to why the Tusken Raider stuff is great now. I want to get the thoughts out of the way before I realize where they're going with it. But at that moment, I was like, okay, I guess the only reason why it's going is because when he says in the present storyline is that Jabba ruled by fear and he wants to rule with respect. So he's respecting the Tusken Raiders because we know in Star Wars history, the Tusken Raiders have never gotten their respect. So if the show is doing nothing else, it's going to flesh out those characters.
Yeah, and you're right. I that was one of my biggest beats with episode 1 was that Goru monster was pretty underwhelming. It kind of looked like a Clash of the Titans Kraken.
That was absolutely the point of it.
And I was just kind of like, okay, this is kind of goofy looking, which it was fine. But yeah, I really enjoyed where they're going with the Tusken Raider stuff. In the fact that we already knew in the Mandalorian that he had the gaffy stick. You know, why is this dude walking around? Why is Boba Fett walking around with a gaffy stick? So this is kind of like circling back to find out like what happened to him
and wearing black robes.
That's right. And so like you're trying to figure out like what happened to him. How did he survive? How did he get out of the basically out of the wastelands alive and seeming to be pretty badass, which you get to see in a little bit in episode 1, but more so in episode 2 where they start training him right to fight. And you think of Boba Fett as being the ultimate badass, but he gets his ass handed to him by the Tusken Raiders, pretty much straight off, right? They goes one-on-one with him and the Tusken Raider whoops his ass. And so that was kind of like that was a take back moment where I was like, whoa, like Boba Fett just got like annihilated by some random Tusken Raider guy. Like, that's kudos to the Tusken Raiders that they're pretty badass, and they have to be, right? They have to be pretty badass to be surviving out there in the wastelands of Tatooine. And so yeah, it's we'll get into the episode 2, like where we get further into the Tusken Raider stuff, but like that was eye-opening when the Tusken Raider just basically like hands him his ass. Like I was like, okay, all right, whoa, interesting.
Yeah, and let's get into this. Is the start of episode 2, which I think we can all agree is a significant improvement. It's a longer episode as well, too. There's about 15 more minutes to the runtime, and it does focus a lot more on that. And I mean, you can definitely see a lot of influences in episode 2 from two big things. Dune, certainly, which Dune and Star Wars hand in hand have inspired and from each other, and a lot of Lawrence of Arabia as well too, because there's a subplot. There's a subplot of the train and storming the train and things like that. So now he's kind of like the Peter O'Toole character coming to save and provide salvation to the Tusken Raiders. But let's go on to episode 2 here, which like I said, everybody can kind of agree was the best part of the episode. The two storylines. The first one begins now that he's accepted with the Tusken Raiders, he can begin his training that you saw there. And again, it's kind of a reset for Boba Fett because he can't rely on his gadgets and his gizmos and his stuff because he doesn't have it. So he's got to almost rebuild himself using the ways of their fighting and kind of putting it all together. But in the present storyline, in this moment, he's visited by a few guests. Crime Lord Boba's always got to be looking over his shoulders. And Matt, tell us and show us who he's visited by.
He has his parkour ninja captive and threatens to feed him to the Rancor. He drops him into the pit, which we all love, but of course we knew, and any half-knowing Star Wars fan knows, there's no Rancor in there because he was killed in Return of the Jedi. So, kind of a wet squib of a joke because it really didn't pay off for me. But the guy thought there was a Rancor, and he gives up. He says, the mayor sent me. So let's go talk to the mayor. And the mayor is played by portrayed by I'm forgetting his name and the
Robert Rodriguez.
Robert Rodriguez does the voice, but the name of the mayor,
Rudy Giuliani,
anyways, is portrayed by the hammerhead species of alien, and he says, I had nothing to do with it. You might want to go talk to Jennifer Beals at her casino.
Because she's a maniac.
Yeah.
Maniac on the
Jennifer
floor.
Beals is in it too. She plays a Twilight. She's smoking hot. I don't really get the storyline at the casino, and it's
so
kind of
we were
weird.
watching it.
but-
Me and Kim were watching it, and I was like, "Do you know who that is?" I'm like, and she's like, "No." I'm like, "That's Jennifer Beals." She's like, "No way. She looks way too good to be Jennifer Beals." I'm like, "That's Jennifer Beals." And I'm not like, obviously they've got her all made up and everything with the thing, but like, dang, she looks good.
She makes an appearance in the first episode too, and
Yeah.
her name shows up, and I was like, "Oh, that was her! Great!" And then I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I hope she wasn't just designated to the one episode. I hope she's coming back." And she came back for 2, and I was like, "Yes, she's a recurring character." I'm
She
hoping we're gonna
seems to
see
play-
more.
While we're on in her world there in her little bar, we neglected to say my favorite thing about episode 1, and he also comes back for episode 2, is we see that Max Rebo managed to survive the sail barge incident and is now still getting gigs, still playing tunes for people, and still loving life. You know, kicking out the jams in the bar scene, which I was like, Max, just kicking out those jams, and I loved it. I love it. Here we go. Here he is.
In the background there, we got
He's in the
an
background.
RX droid dealing out cards and drinks, and
Playing
Max Rebo
tobacco,
back.
I
too.
was so happy to see Max when he came in. That was definitely a pop for me in episode 1, and then see him again in episode 2. I'm like, he's still going, still getting gigs after all these years.
Remind me about Max Rebo near the end of the episode, because there's a question and probably going to be a running category for this show as we continue on.
Okay.
But again, so other thoughts, episode 2. We're condensing a little bit. Let's talk about our own personal stuff. What do you guys think? Did you like the storyline with Boba Fett, and the biker bar? Did that work for you?
Okay, before we go that far, let's talk about Jabba's cousins,
Okay, that's
the twins.
Yes,
Who
and someone they bring
This is
with
the best
we'll
part of
get
the
to that.
episode.
Yes.
Okay.
When he goes to visit Jennifer Beals at her casino, she says there's a certain way of doing things, and Boba Fett as a crime lord does not fit the Hutt standard. Obviously, we see here the Hutts get carried through the streets; they're treated as royalty. He doesn't want to work that way. So,
and they keep bringing it up. We were like, "I didn't see you.
We didn't see your litter. Otherwise, we would have prepared for your arrival."
Yeah.
But the Hutts, I guess they hear that Boba Fett has taken over Mos Espa for himself, and they say, "Well, we're not going to have that," and return to lay claim on Jabba's former territory. Boba Fett says, "I don't think so," and the Hutts, they have a bit of a something up their sleeve. I'm going to see if I can bring them up. A character from what was from the comic books. Now, in 2015, when they relaunched the comic books, Marvel said these books are now canon. And what goes on matters.
Okay.
Well, while all three of us started reading the comics, and while that was happening, the movie started coming out, and we didn't see any correlation. We didn't see stuff happening in the comics being mentioned in the movies. So I think I can speak for all three of us. We kind of stopped reading them.
Well, they got ridiculous. You got ridiculous, and we're going so far, like out of like the realm of like what, like why? How are you going to connect this to everything else?
Right,
territories.
They told a lot of stories between the original trilogy movies that were not making sense and were not mentioned in the original trilogy movies at all. Anyways, in other comics, and Darth Vader, we're introduced to a Wookiee bounty hunter by the name of Black Chrysanthemum, and he makes an appearance in this episode that the Hutts, they kind of say, well, we have an ace up our sleeve. And he turns the corner, and my jaw hit the floor because this is one of the very few characters from outside canon to come in, especially from the comics. And my head exploded. It's like, I'm gonna have to start reading the comics again because I don't know what else is going to happen. Black Chrysanthemum, or BK as he's known by some of the characters in the comics, first appeared in Darth Vader #1 and is introduced as Boba Fett's partner as they go out to discover the identity of the person who blew up the Death Star. That was the mission that Vader sends them on.
and in this, so and they keep giving each other looks. So
Yes.
like, does that mean that, like,
Marquee title fight is going to
yeah,
happen.
are they? Does that mean like they know they obviously know each other by those looks? Here I'll just bring up. This is from the comic. Marvel comic. It says he's Obi-Wan's confronting him, and if you can read that, but he says you're Black Chrysanthemum, and he's basically a disgraced Wookiee. He's thrown off planet, and he's hired by Jabba, and so he has worked for Jabba previously, which makes sense why he would come back and start working for the twins. If this, I mean, it's all canon, so this makes sense to where he would start coming in with the twins. He's done missions for Darth Vader himself. He's done missions for the Empire. He's done all kinds of missions throughout the comics. So this is a perfect connection and perfect way for him to be introduced, because he's falling in as being a man for hire for these Hutts, and so obviously we're gonna see a Boba Black BK. We'll just call him BK. I can't Chrysanthemum square off, which is going to be fun. Either that, or they're going to either square off or they're going to team up. We'll see. Well, he might, because of their previous partnership, he may turn on the Hutts and go with Boba. Who knows?
We will see. I have some predictions as well too, which we will talk about. Let's save it for the end of the episode. We'll talk about best and worst things, and then predictions for the future. There is a chance that they could. This is only 7 episodes. There's probably a little bit of a. If I was writing it, maybe if you do a season 2, there's probably a better chance that they could team up then down the road. I would like to see that a little bit, probably more than that. Maybe keep them adversarial for the remainder of this. Keep the Hutts as like the big bad kind of looming over here, because they would want justice for Jabba and they would want to really know what happened there. I mean, in essence, there is this power vacuum that Bib Fortuna didn't really fill. He was took over, but he didn't really do anything. But now they're threatened because they're losing their stranglehold on it, because Boba's taking over and even cleaning up regardless on his policies. But I think we can all agree that was probably the best part. I thought some of the other stuff was great, but just that's the kind of stuff that I like to see that's going to add to it, bring in characters from other mediums, and give a little bit of tension and excitement. I mean, the big action stuff, that's all great too, but it's not always necessary and needed. Whereas this, I just want to kind of know, I just want a rich story to see where we're going.
Well, and that's what's great, is that it gives you both here, because as we know, when we've talked about this off air, the Star Wars fan base is a fickle bunch that are going to complain one way or the other. So this kind of gives a little bit of everything for everyone, right? It gives you the action sequences. It gives you all those Easter eggs. It gives you all these things where, like, if you want to complain about something, there's stuff here for everyone, right? You don't there's stuff you can nitpick about, but you can't complain that doesn't have things in here, especially episode 2, right?
I think the thing I was most excited
in here
about Boba Fett is you don't have to rely on a gimmick of a Baby Yoda that Mando did, and Mando did quite a bit as well too. So now you just have a character. And my biggest pro of the first 2 episodes, I'll say mine right now, is I do think Tamir Morrison is a great actor. I think he does have the luxury of being able to take his helmet off and conveying a lot more. I think he's an incredible force, and he looks great on film. He's filled out a little more, and he looks older and grizzled and more so in that. I mean, he's popped up occasionally through some stuff. He was most recently in Aquaman as well too. He's Aquaman's Earth father, but didn't do much in the film. One fight scene and a few things. But it's good to see him back in that. I think the fact that he does that, and that's what I want to see from the show, is a lot of that stuff. And that's what I like. I like being able to rely on Boba Fett, the character, and his adventures, and you don't have a lot of gimmicks to rely on, because to me, it's very stripped down.
Well, and you don't need it, right? Boba Fett is a big enough character in the Star Wars universe that, like, Mando, you kind of had to introduce him. You had to introduce his whole shtick, and with adding
and
Yoda.
Remind everyone this is not Boba Fett,
right? Whereas, like, we all know and love Boba Fett from day one. The second he showed up on screen, people were lost their minds, and he's literally on screen for 5 minutes, and people were like, holy crap, who is this guy, and losing their mind. He was in, he shows up for 5 seconds in the holiday special, and people are like, oh my gosh, Boba Fett, who is this guy? And so you don't need to introduce Boba Fett, even though you did already in Mando. People know Boba Fett, so like it's not like you're like, oh, like we need to build up this character. This character's been built up for basically our entire lives as being this like probably one of the most popular characters in Star Wars
by far.
So,
yeah, top 5 for sure. And you know very little about him until the prequels, and even then, he's a guy who's had most of his history and stuff told off screen through other mediums, through books and stuff. That we're going to fill in the gaps on that now too. Certainly, he got a lot of his fill in the Clone Wars cartoons. That's where they really fleshed out him as a character and his relationships that he's forged after Attack of the Clones, which he's in. I mean, as a character in Attack of the Clones, he's in for probably 8 to 12 minutes.
Yeah.
So again, as we know, this is going to be a show that fills in a lot of those gaps. We're running here. Let's go to a few things. What do you guys want to touch on? The train, so he's in the Tusken Raiders and he's being accepted, and what he does is he has visions. There's he goes on more of a soul finding mission with a creature, with like a little creature that goes in his brain and shows him visions. So I mean, what do you guys want to talk about otherwise? The vision showed him, his childhood in Camino. He witnessed his father leaving in the Slave One. There's a lot of good stuff for prequel fans, which I think we can say we are. I think most of the internet is coming around to the idea of the prequels. A lot of this has been rehabbing instances of the prequels, the Clone Wars. Certainly, I mean, if there was ever anybody who's done something for a medium, it's Dave Filoni massaging how people view the prequels, and we're coming around to those. So any kind of prequel stuff is appetizing in that regard. But what do you guys think of those in particular?
The Vision Quest was great.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard headcanon and fan theories about what it represented, and that it was about Boba Fett finding his place as far as like family is concerned, because he wasn't born, he's a clone of Jango Fett, and the tree that he rips a branch off is supposed to be representing his family tree, which doesn't quite exist, and tearing off his piece of it, which later becomes his gaffy stick. There's a smaller tree next to that one, which is theorized to represent Omega from Bad Batch, because technically she's Boba Fett's sister. She's the only other pure clone.
Okay, so
I like this way more.
Yeah, here we go.
I
did not know
this
that.
Is what I want. This is what I want the show to be. We don't need to condense. We don't need to condense. I like to talk about this. This is what I want it to be. This is the best part of our.
I've not heard that. So do you think that she's going to pop up at some point? I mean, they're kind of grooming that in Bad Batch that she's still alive, right?
Between Bad Batch and Book of Boba Fett, there's probably going to be an intersection where it's kind of named. That you have a brother and he's out there, and then maybe she'll show up in.
Oh my gosh! I just got shivers.
In Boba Fett.
Yeah, that's great. I like it, and I like that idea of family, right? Because he's kind of like endearing him. Yeah, I'm kind of endearing himself and building a family with the Tusken Raiders. And if somebody at one point, I don't remember if it's episode 1 or episode 2, where somebody says, "I've seen your face before. I've seen it 1,000 times." Right. In the talking about him being a clone, when he's like, "No."
That was in Mandalorian, and
yeah. Because
Bo-Katan says that to him. I've heard your voice 1,000 times.
That's right. Okay, yeah, in Bo-Katan, yeah. And so and so he's got that looming over him too, where people all over the galaxy know his face. Without the helmet, because they've seen it in
which is great.
All these clones.
There's some great wrinkles, and especially now, again, veering off on just stuff like this, there's a lot of good chances that he could come across a few other clones.
I
mean, they'll be older than him, but we know who's out there. We know they say Rex was at Return of the Jedi. This is right after that. They're going to be probably 20 years old, but there's a lot for Tamir Morrison to do to come across other people that look like him, that are going through the same kind of existential crisis and stuff like that. Maybe you don't do it in this season, because I know you have the 2 storylines, Memento style, that are going to fill in, but there's a lot of meat on the bone there as well.
Well, that could be an episode. That could be a season ending thing where he goes he comes up and goes face to face with Rex, and you're like, whoa.
Or somebody else who's been there, who's been trying to find where he belongs as well too.
That's good, but there's also 2 more shows where Rex could pop up without any question at all.
Ahsoka's show.
Obi-Wan and Ahsoka.
Yeah, Ahsoka's going to be the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could have because he's young Rex. It'd be young Rex and Obi-Wan, right? It'd be a younger Rex.
Yes, because that's prior to A New Hope. Yeah,
that's right. So oh man, that's one thing. Like you said, talking about the Clone Wars. I think anyone who's seen the Clone Wars and gone through the Clone Wars can say that it is like one of the best things in Star Wars. Period. And so like Rex coming from that, everybody loves Rex. If you don't love Rex, then I don't know what to tell you, because when he popped up Old Man Rex and Rebels, I was losing my mind. And so to get a live old man version of Rex.
We know Sabine's going to be in Ahsoka too, so there you go.
That's right.
Yeah.
But so then this episode, we all agree the visions were great. There's a lot to allude to fans like us. So then ultimately at the end of the episode, there's a story where the train is running through the Tusken Raider camp.
Now I just want to stop and talk about the scene where I audibly went nuts.
Oh, please, yes, that's what this is for, please.
Because before they take the train, Boba Fett says, I have a plan to stop the train. In chapter 1 and earlier in chapter 2, we see a swoop gang who have been terrorizing people of Mos Espa and stealing their water. Being a desert planet, water is very important. So Boba Fett tracks down the swoop gang to a bar, and he right before he shows up, we get a shot of a couple sitting at a table and the swoop gang stealing their chips and taking their drinks. And I am going nuts because I'm pointing at the screen. I'm holding my girlfriend is next to me, her legs on top, and I'm just like, I'm squeezing her legs. I'm just absolutely going nuts because the clothes look familiar, the characters look familiar. I'm like, could this be? And then when they start a fight, I watch with the subtitles. The girl says, "Hey, stop it." And right above that is her name, and her name is Cammy. And I go nuts because this is Cammy and Fixer, who are characters from a deleted scene from New Hope. They're Luke's friends, and this is Toshi's station.
I had heard
mind blowing.
This is where he goes to see Biggs, right? I've heard that. I saw that on Twitter, and I'm glad that you went there. I didn't know that these characters were the characters, but I saw somebody tweet that said the bar scene is from a deleted scene in A New Hope, where he goes and talks to Biggs about joining the rebellion.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they used the same set.
And those characters are there. They're obviously recasted because they're supposed to be Luke's age, and the original actors would be Mark Hamill's age, and they didn't use them, of course. So they hired younger actors to portray them. So Boba Fett takes out the swoop gang and steals their bikes and teaches the Tuskens how to ride swoop bikes. And it's a montage that, we're all fans of montages for sure.
Yes.
They take the train, which is being piloted or operated by the Pike Syndicate, who we recognize and know from Clone Wars, and more recently in Solo, because they live on Kessel. They're the spice miners on Kessel. And Boba Fett says, if you want to travel through here, you got to pay tribute to the Tuskens, and they'll let you pass safely.
I love the bit, and we're like, "Are you carrying spice on this train?"
Yes.
And you're like, "What spice?"
What spice?
And then Bumba's like, "That's spice." that was really funny, and that's the kind of thing what we've not touched on. There's a lot of good humor in this, and there's a lot of humor in that montage scene of the Tusken Raiders like bumbling through, learning how to fly their speeders, right? And it's like, that was pretty fun, and once it kicks into the action, it kind of gets through it, and then we see the all black Tusken really take over, and like we've already seen how badass that Tusken is when he goes up against Boba, but
when
then we see
goes up against. That's the chief's
yes,
wife.
sorry, yeah. When she goes, we see when she goes into action, what she can do, not just in fighting, but like jumping on the train, just kicking a whole lot of ass, and like fly, and her doing like the suicide fly into the actual train itself was pretty amazing. That was a pretty great scene where you have the guy shooting in between the cars, and she just flies into it and jumps off it. yeah, it's that whole scene, and basically when she takes over and basically saves the mission almost single-handedly. I mean, Boba does a lot too, but she does a lot of the heavy work there in that whole thing, and even going into the car, her going into the car and wiping goods out. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
So
amazing.
after the train scene, they celebrate a little bit, and this is when the chief gives Boba Fett the lizard that goes up his nose, and he hallucinates. He goes on that spirit quest. He comes back with a branch from a tree, which they use in to build his gaffy stick, and wonderful close-ups of how they do it. Every Etsy shop is watching this closely to put their gaffy sticks online for purchase. Cosplayers alike are like, okay, this is what it looks like. This is how you have to make it. They give him his black robes because these Tuscans wear a lot of black. It's theorized that that might be in reference to them worshiping Darth Vader. In one of the comics, Darth Vader comes back to Tatooine and wipes out a tribe of Tuscans, and rumor goes around about this black warrior who does this. So I think they may be wearing black to honor him. And then the episode ends with them doing a warrior-like ceremonial dance around a campfire, and
which was awesome.
That part too.
Yeah,
awesome.
And then being set, so he's full. Like again, as we've talked, he progresses into the tribe.
He is now part of the tribe.
Yeah, and what's funny is it goes back. One thing I saw, not my original thought, but yeah, I want to echo it here, and it's kind of what the famous quote we can all quote by George Lucas is. It's poetry, it rhymes, and then you look at a guy like Anakin who was raised by a mother with no father, and he slaughtered the Tusken Raiders because they're animals. Meanwhile, you have a guy like Boba Fett who was raised by a father with no mother. Same kind of thing, being, the back to tank, all that, being the reverse Vader, the reverse Anakin, finding his humanity with the Tusken Raiders. I think, again, it's just all poetry. It rhymes. There's these stories and elements and themes that echo through, and just how each different character, can kind of portray through the different situations through the years. So that's one thing I didn't know. I didn't expect the humanization of the Tusken Raiders. But again, that's something that they're going all in on. And, we'll see how that gets him to cross paths with Din Djarin. And because he's got the robes, he's got the gaffy stick as well now. So he's already a little bit of the way there. But obviously, you're going to want to tell this story for a little bit longer. So how he gets the Tusken Raiders. And there's going to be an instance in the present day storyline as well, too, where what's going to happen is whoever will, there's your BK showdown right there, and then the Tusken Raiders show up and have his back. And that's coming in the 6th or 7th episode this season.
Sure,
right.
Of course.
He'll be fighting with the Tusken Raiders.
The story of his time with the Tuskens on Tatooine should probably be story-wise like 5 years, because that's the length before the Mando arrives on Tatooine, and to a certain point, Boba Fett has become aware that he has his armor and goes looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long is this going to be like Arrow? Is this his time on the island? Is this going to last for 4 seasons? Yes. This is just, so we do Boba Fett season 2 and we're still doing the Tusken Raiders training? Like, that's what I think is like, is this only going to be like 4 episodes and then the 5th episode he goes off? Is there going to be, you're right, he'll probably leave and go on little side missions. But is his time with the Tusken Raiders ultimately telling a storyline that's reminiscent? Is this Arrow? Is this going to be the story structure moving forward? I don't know.
Could be. Yeah, we'll see. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, favorite things, first 2 episodes. Anything else to add? What do you guys want to? You guys want to hit favorite, least favorite thing?
Favorite things would be episode 2.
Just the whole episode.
I mean, in comparison, seeing Max Rebo is awesome.
Yes, and, that's my choice for
from the first episode, and establishing Boba's mandate as far as being a ruler was important, but the show really kicks off in episode 2. I'm surprised, maybe because of how many episodes there are, that they didn't drop both of these on the first Wednesday.
Yeah, they did it with Hawkeye. I know. I guess they don't need to, but you're right. I know. They did it with Loki too, I'm pretty sure, the first 2, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I guess I don't need to. Cons? Any con? Like, mine's going to be Timur Morrison's acting. I think he's a presence, and I just like to look at the man. Any cons? I don't think the comedy works for me. I'm sorry. Sometimes the comedy bits, the bits with the Boba is your name on the registry, that guy who looked like he just walked off.
Yeah, we skipped over that because
the long hair. I mean, we can't hit it all. If you watched the episode, you would have seen. I just don't think the comedy works. I don't think the comedy works a lot of the time. I don't know. Maybe I'm just prickly.
And on a similar note, as you said, talking about Tumu and his amazing acting, Fennec is kind of hit or miss for me. Like she plays the same character in a lot of the same roles. Like her character in like Agent of Shield and all that stuff is
stoic, badass.
Yeah,
I don't think she has anything to the show.
And exactly, and so like when she's doing her thing, I'm kind of like, okay, so this is the same character that she's usually doing, and it's just like it kind of gets old.
Star Wars is not great. I'm sorry, just Star Wars is not great for female characters. There's like a handful, but like Fennec is just like bitchy badass. Like, do we need another bitchy badass? Like, she's just a Phasma who's just there, who's just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you could say that, but I would say better than Phasma because
hasn't done anything to me yet.
No? Yeah, she really has. I mean,
I don't think Fennec is any bit memorable. If she was in the next episode, I would not go.
She's not a member. She hasn't done anything in this. She hasn't done anything in this show. The episode where it was Mando, where Mando and Kid were hunting her down. That was okay. But yeah, she hasn't really done anything yet, and maybe she will at some point. And I guess she would have to. She's going to have to do something at some point.
She's going to be fighting.
Contractually obligated to do something cool. We know it, but you're right. And now that Fennec is never really. I've never cared.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like she's just like they're just kind of like the right hand person, but she hasn't even like usually the right hand person is like doing badass stuff, and she's okay, I guess. She got beat up by those shield people. The shield guys were rocking her.
Then she went running after them. She caught one by the end of the episode.
That's fair. But like at that point, the Gamorrean guards had already done the dirty work. So
predictions. Guys. Where are we going? Where are we going in 3 and 4?
Okay,
3 and 4.
Because I have a lot. I don't think it's going to happen in 3 and 4. Maybe a little later, but there's a lot of people connecting the dots that the crime syndicate would be some variation of Crimson Dawn. And this is a good
I've heard that.
Kira back in as well too. I don't think they're going to do that right away. I think maybe 6 or 7. You could put Emilia Clarke, but otherwise, I mean, I couldn't tell you. I mean, the Tuskens, he's gonna do some other stuff, earn their respect, catch them on modernization. I don't know.
We're definitely going to see more into the Tusken way of life, which will be interesting. But as far as the being the crime boss part. He ends his conversation with the Hutts as the Hutts saying, "We will see," and then they walk off. And he actually says,
"Deal with this later."
Yeah, we'll deal with this later. And he says, "Maybe we settled it." And then it flashes. The rest of the episode is just Tusken stuff. So, as far as the crime syndicate stuff is concerned, it's really an open book. But certainly, we're hoping for a fight between Boba and Black Krrsantan.
Yeah,
I mean that's. Present day Boba to come back and be a badass in the suit.
I mean, we're talking about Black Krrsantan thing. That's obviously going to be later in the season, if not into season 2. But I think we probably need to see, because we know how badass Black Krrsantan and he looks very intimidating. We need to see Black Krrsantan do some badass stuff to build him up, because we don't need him to be built up. But the regular Joe needs to know how badass he is, and to know to make him to that adversary. So maybe in 3 and 4 they show him like doing some like terrible stuff to some people for the Hutts, right? To kind of build him up as being like, oh my gosh, like how is Boba going to take this guy on?
Sending messages. Yes. That's good.
That's good. Right. It's like. Because
we've seen it kind of, but pulling some arms out. I feel like we got that's.
Like we need they need to build. They need to build. It's and like you guys will appreciate this, right? The whole Rocky thing. You need to build up Dolph Lundgren to to be
Yes.
better than this guy is much better and much stronger.
BK
much
has
crazier.
to kill Apollo
Because
Creed.
we know,
Yeah.
no, Ray, you're
kill
absolutely right.
Fennec?
Because we
Is
know,
BK
and
gonna kill Fennec?
no, I wish
Whoa,
we
calling
but
it.
That would be
Calling it.
great. Injure whatever else. But you're right, because we do have to see Boba come back and kind of. So this is perfect, and we're gonna end on this. Boba's been doing a lot more with his humanity, right? He takes the
Right.
mask off a lot more, and we know that. But it's going to be and he's very much patterned off the Man with No Name. And there's going to be a time when he has to don it back and be like, this is who I am. And I think a lot of the first 2 episodes is trying to establish him as a human, as he's trying to humanize the Tusken Raiders. Kindness, I want to be on respect. But there has to be something. You're right. BK has to do something where he can come back and say, F that, that's out the window. I'm the badass again in the suit, and kind of do that whole like walk through the swinging doors and go out to the showdown. And we have to be like, this is what we want. We want Boba Fett to, we want him to rule on his humanity, but we want him to fight as we want. We built him up for 40 years to be.
That's right, and we have to have a reason to be rooting for him. Like you said, BK needs to do some dastardly stuff for us to be rooting for him to take him down. It's just to be like, oh, this guy looks tough. She should take it out. We need to see why he needs to take him down. Like you said, he needs to do some stuff for the Hutts to be like, oh, this guy's bad news. Like, so yeah, that's
our
my
number one thing. If we're telling you one thing to watch in episode 3 and 4, Black Chrysanthemum kicking ass, and Boba getting it in 5, 6, and 7. Anything else, fellas?
Yes. Okay. The category I want to start for this show and moving forward will certainly be certainly for Scott, not so much for AB, though he will appreciate. Between the 2 episodes, which Funko Pops are you buying?
Oh, that's great. Which one? That's fun. Yeah, our toyetic moment of the week. So, do we all agree? BK?
Okay. So is there just one that you would buy?
No, I'll list off the ones you want.
Well, I don't actually have. You know what's funny is I don't have that many Mando Pops. I only have one of Mando holding the child and Luke holding the child. So I only have those. You lose your shirt on and stuff like that. So I stick to the main movies line, and especially the Black series, which I have. But mine, I would probably go Black Chrysanthemum would be the coolest. Of course. Put him next to Chewbacca. And
yeah, this show is going to pose a problem for me because I kind of made a promise to myself that moving forward, I wouldn't buy Pops featured based on the TV shows. The characters come out so often, I have no more space for that kind of stuff. And moving through episode 1, I was like, well, if Max Rebo comes out with his piano, I'm going to get that because the current Pop is atrocious. And then episode 2 happened. I was just like, oh my God, all of these characters are going to be Pops and I'm going to want them. The twins are going to be awesome. BK is going to be awesome. All the Tuskens are going to get made for sure.
Yeah.
But the big one will be, and they'll fit in my movie section, Cammy and Fixer. Those are I'll want those for sure.
Cool. That's great. That's great, Paul.
Interesting. Yeah, I Matt alluded to it. It doesn't follow me because I even though I am a massive Star Wars fan, I've not got a single. I have one Star Wars Pop that was given to me, but I will never buy a Star Wars Pop because it is the never-ending black hole. And
even for me, I'm not really happy. I haven't bought many Star Wars in a while. I've focused on some other aspects, and I'm missing a few. And me not doing Mando is like kind of unfortunate, but I'm not dropping $300.
Yeah.
You lose it, man. And then you buy other stuff. You can't. So I'm gonna be doing this podcast in the dark on an iPhone because I have to sell my assets like I'm Michael Jackson. Gentlemen, anything else? This is a great first episode.
I'm all set.
We're talking. Okay.
I mean, you're kind of wrap it up, but like, this isn't just going to be a Boba Fett show. This is going to be a show where we talk about anything we want to talk about, and so going forward, we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff that we like. So we hope that you also like that kind of stuff too. So
we'll go inside baseball. We'll get out of here before an hour. For Kim, who's still watching, probably the only one. This is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about fun stuff. I mean, I'm hoping these guys, we don't want to have to do the research that we had to do for the Mack Flash 5 and watch the films and miss stuff. And then you come out here and
top
that kind
5
of
anythings will probably show up on this show for sure.
And that's great. And things we can do and maybe spur the moment stuff. But this is mainly for me to be kind of our conversation that we have at Manchester. Certainly we're not doing Manchester for the next 2 months at least. So this is a nice chance to be able to get together to talk about Book of Boba Fett, to maybe do a Spider-Man No Way Home recap and review, to maybe talk about albums, to talk about, the Super Bowl. Maybe we can have guests on. We might get guests, Jersey Jim, talk about music, things like that we want to talk about. So we're not confined to doing a Mack Flash 5 music show or a movie show, but we can just come on and talk about stuff with maybe a little bit of prep, because it's all stuff that we were watching anyways. So I think that's ideally what we're going to go. We're going to massage, we're going to figure things out, but I like that we have kind of a theme like that, because Mack Flash Entertainment should be more than trivia to me. That's why we do the drafts. That's why we do the year in review things, because it's all about entertainment, both that the channel provides and that we consume on our own, and how we digest that to people who are fans of the channel as well too. So for that first episode, Book of Boba Fett, we'll see everyone else in 2 weeks.
I'll be here.
Okay. Yes, see you guys. For AB, for Matt, I'm Scott. LFG.